Hey 3DMJers, welcome back to the show. After a month-long break, we are returning to podcast land for another 10 episodes and kicking things off with one of our more popular types of podcasts, a crowdsourced Q&A session. My name is Andrea Valdez, and today I'm joined by Eric Helms, Alberto Nunez, and a few of you listeners who have submitted questions to us via our website. Most of these come from our web-generated form at 3dmusclejourney.com/QA, and a couple others have come from the comment sections of blog posts or podcast episode posts as well. In this episode, some topics we will be chatting about include mind-muscle connection and how it matters, prepping for photo shoots versus preparing for bodybuilding shows, what types of clients 3DMJ works with and the reasons why we would turn someone away, whether or not it's useful to classify athletes based on their 1 rep max, how to handle an athlete who gained too much after their competition season, assessing fatigue and pain that comes from changes in training programming, and how to deal with suppressed appetite due to increased activity. To all those who submitted, thank you so much for taking the time, and we hope all of these answers and discussions serve you well. Let's go ahead and get into the show. This is Q&A session number 7 with Eric Helms and Alberto Nunez. THIJS is the first name. I'm not sure how to say it, and I don't know if it'd be rude for me to try. I would imagine.
Itches?
This?
THIJS. I'm not even going to try and get it wrong because this poor man deserves some respect.
Hey, I like your rat tail. I just noticed it.
I know. I can't do anything about it. No, that's what we're going with.
Okay. Question. How important is the mind-muscle connection really for muscle hypertrophy? When I first started with the evidence-based approach of training, I read a lot about just upping volume and intensity to grow and not to focus that much on feeling the muscle. When I started following you guys and others like Mike Israetel, I hear you talk a lot more about the mind-muscle connection. Are there any real studies on it, and how do you guys see it? Should you find like a midway for both upping volume and intensity and the mind-muscle connection? ? And I'm done reading it. Good question.
Yeah, but they're totally unrelated concepts, volume, intensity, and mind-muscle connection. It's not like a variable of training. I would say it's just if you properly perform some lifts, you should be able to feel it in the target musculature. Good rule of thumb is that when you're talking about compound barbell movements, you want to think about the performance of the lift properly. And there's a lot of research showing that external cues, so things like thinking of pushing through the floor or throwing the bar through the ceiling if you're trying to do an explosive bench press, versus thinking about the contraction in your pecs will result in better performance. And there have been a lot of head-to-head comparisons where they've looked at EMG, which is the amount of muscle activity, or rather electrical activity in a muscle, in response to both internal focus or external focus. And while you can, at low loads, increase EMG with focusing on the mind-muscle connection, once you get to around like 80% of 1RM or higher on compound lifts, there's not an advantage, and some studies show a disadvantage. That said, I think for isolation movements, there was a recent study that came out that showed in like bicep barbell curls. We covered this in mass, by the way. So check out 3dmusclejourney.com/mass if you want to subscribe and get, all kinds of research reviews read by your face. Then I would recommend that.
As opposed to your arm or your...
Yes, don't read it with your arm, it won't work. There was a recent one where we reviewed a study where there were better outcomes in terms of internal focus using bicep curl. So basically on stuff like cable-based movements, isolation movements, it's good to actually think about the muscle contracting. But for more compound movements, especially barbell-based ones, just think about proper performance.
Right. So it's not either or finding a balance. It's that certain lifts require it and some require more performance cues versus.
Yeah. And one thing, I'm going to be a slight pedantic person on this. The guy said following an evidence-based approach to training. If you truly want to be evidence-based, you're not just going to listen to folks like me or Mike Israel talk about what happens to be on our mind lately or what a podcaster asked us about. You want to try to engage with the research as it's coming out in some way. So that could be through a research review. That could be you reading meta-analysis or systematic reviews that pop up, position stands at different organizations. It's not an easy task to read direct research, but we're fallible human beings, even though we are scientists and coaches and athletes at the same time, in the case of some of the people you mentioned. So what is currently striking our fancy or what we're talking about is probably more of a reflection of what's currently interesting or controversial rather than here's the broad perspective on the evidence on this. Just put that out there.
Boom, shakalaka. No, that's a good point. So with, can you elaborate more on the isolation movements? If someone was like, okay, if I usually use 30-pound dumbbells and I could do 35, but I use my body a little bit, is that bad? Or should I go back down to 25 so I can do them 100% clean, pure, strict, feeling it exactly where I want to feel it, never worry about the weight?
Yeah. I don't see a huge benefit to using body English on like isolation exercises, and
that's an interesting term. Body English.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're doing a little bit of semi-partial cheaty momentum-y stuff to see you can curl 35 versus 30, like you really need to check yourself. Like nobody gives a fuck when you curl, So I think a lot of people train like that. Like they have to see progressive overload on movements, or they don't want to be seen. I remember I used to not want to do incline press just because it was so much weaker than my flat or my decline.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah. So yeah, like oh man, I can only do like 135 for 6, but I can do 225 for 6 on flat. So I'm going to construct my program around not being embarrassed in the gym. That's not ideal. That's letting your ego kind of run your life. So I think you need to check yourself continually. Not that your form has to be like 100%, but you should be trying to use the most effective form to achieve what you're trying to accomplish. So I don't think you need to start training really slow. I don't think if you're like slowing your tempo and really focusing on a muscle so much that you can't, like do loads with reason, or do the movement with reasonable loads, and like a video wouldn't show any difference, then that's probably just being a little too anal about it. But yeah, I would adhere to the movement standard. It should be 90, 100% on point to the best of your ability. And yeah, nothing wrong with visualizing and thinking about your muscle contracting when you're doing an isolation movement on top of that.
Okay. One more angle to it, just to be thorough, if that's okay. Is it cool to keep?
Out-angle us.
All right. I wish. Is a common thing, or it just brought up in my brain, a query that comes with like, when I front squat or high bar squat, I feel it more in my quads, and when I low bar or whatever, I feel it more in my glutes, and like which squat should I be doing if I feel it in certain places more than others? And I have a feeling you're going to talk to me more about how like obviously everything's used. But I think that's another, I don't say confusion, but something that it might confuse people to be like, well, when I do squats, my glutes burn, whereas someone else, when they do squats, their quads burn. And like personally, when I do squats, I feel a whole body effort. Can you speak to that and like how that might be something that people think matters more than it does, or why they think it matters, stuff like that?
It's one of those things that it could tell you some information, like maybe about what's the weakest link, or maybe just what you're the most aware of. Like our perception of essentially what's pain, fatiguing and burning, even though we don't identify as pain typically, is not necessarily indicative of what's actually going on and what's the most fatiguing thing. Super subjective pain. And even if it was, let's say you did have a pretty realistic perception of what was the weakest link and what was fatiguing first, that's like sort of useful information, but to some degree it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't mean, okay, therefore I'm going to good morning my squats so I feel more glutes. Like, no, don't do that. Everyone's going to have a different weak link because we're all built differently and have different training backgrounds, etc. So I think for the big compound barbell lifts, it's just like, just do it, and something will limit you because it's a compound movement, but that's okay. That's why we have leg extensions and leg curls and split squats and
We're just made so cool. Like you can't squat and like not use your glutes, or like not, like it all goes.
Yeah.
It's made to just kind of do its thing together.
Figure out how to get your hand to your shoulder without moving any other part of your body and not contract the arm flexors. Like ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the angles I have on that one. Can I move on? Bert has anything to add?
Dominated that question. Got anything to say?
Selfish.
No, I think is maybe early on maybe some of the compound movements. Like I could think of like maybe your chest pressing movements. Maybe the mind muscle connection might be something you aim for. But no, eventually it just gets to the point, like Eric said, you're just trying not to get crushed under these loads. And, then eventually, like instead of like using the pain to guide you, like Eric said, is like you just kind of look at your physique at some point and you're like, holy crap, like I have all chest and no triceps. I just throw in some more triceps there. But to try to like change or redistribute the load on a compound is dangerous.
Yeah. And
and I was totally one of those guys at some point, especially with isolations, especially when I really got into the whole like when I didn't give volume as much credit in regards to like what it does for muscle growth. I was one of those guys who was like, nah, the mind muscle connection, like you don't really need it, like even with isolations, and like I completely take that back. Like that's super important with my isolation work. So no, I'd say can't add anything to that other than maybe early on with the chest presses it might be.
Actually, I like that you're talking about different time frames, like early on, later on. Like something I've spent a lot of time on is feeling my lats on back work. I've gone through like periods where I play with, okay, well, if I do lateral flexion and rotation during my row, if I row towards my hip, if I let my arm rotate and I use this certain thing, okay, if I do like a rope pullover and I think of popping my chest up at the top, and like I think of a lot of ways to manipulate certain movements so I can actually feel them in the entirety of my lat. And then I stopped thinking about them because I ingrained that habit, and then it was just a matter of performing it. So I think a good way to think of it is that your focus on the mind-muscle connection, quote unquote, doesn't necessarily remain the whole time. It should get ingrained. Just like you don't have to think about certain cues in lifts once you've been in the game a while. You just squat. It's the same reason why like it's difficult for someone who's been an expert for a long time in a movement to teach someone else how to do it unless they've been an instructor for a long period of time. Like if someone asked you right now, hey, how do you ride a bike? It would actually be quite difficult to teach them how to ride a bike because you don't know. You've been doing that for 20
Unless
years.
you're Eric Helms and learned it 10 years ago.
And I literally learned that this is a hard thing for people to teach because my family couldn't teach me how to ride a bike. And they're like, oh, are you trying to turn by turning the handlebars versus your hands? No, you lean. Like, why don't you just say that? Like, I don't know. I just ride a bike.
That's one of my favorite facts we've ever learned on this podcast is that you just recently learned how to ride a bike.
Yeah, 2010. So good times.
It's my favorite.
I was a disadvantaged child, raised in an abusive household. I was never taught to ride a bike. So.
Don't worry, his mom doesn't listen to this. That's okay. He can.
My mom doesn't listen to this, and that's not true. But I didn't learn to ride a bike as a kid, nonetheless.
Okay. Is that all the angles on that one? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we out-angled that question.
Okay, sweet. But thank you for it. All right. Sarah, there's two for Sarah. I'm going to paraphrase the first one. Basically, she asks, we'll start with you, Bert. Would you, it says about getting an athlete ready for a photo shoot. Is it different than contest prep coaching, and why, or how could it be different? All the factors you consider. I guess like fitness model ready versus prep. I have to make up a scenario, don't I? Because it's like not enough context.
No, I think I would say, honestly, it's very similar. Like, I want to be ready early and like achieve that look early and then bring food back so they don't look as beat up as they did on the way down. Because even photo shoot ready, I think especially nowadays, like everyone's getting a whole lot leaner. Yeah. So, the difference would probably be, honestly, I feel like 4 to 5% in body weight versus like they wanted to go, like if they wanted to be stage ready. So there wouldn't be too much of a difference. I would like not rely on any last minute things to get the look, but I'd get it ahead of time.
Yeah. And it would be, for some of the divisions like bikini, male physique, it would be the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's like guest posing lean for bodybuilding, which is the same as someone who looks good but doesn't need to be shredded for men's physique or bikini. Yeah. And
what you were saying, Bert, that 4 to 5% difference would be more like if I'm a male bodybuilder and I know how to get like shredded, but for a shoot I just need to get like very impressive lean, and then I'll get a pump up and I'll be good. But the methods would be the same.
If you get on stage at 160, it would just be you diet down to 166.
Yeah. And the methods, just for Sarah, we don't begin a diet any differently. Like the methods are the methods. Principles are the principles. The other question, if my phone wouldn't lock on me so I could ask you. This is actually something that we just talked about on our blog and Instagram post and all that stuff is, do you work with people like myself who have no desire to compete in anything but enjoy maintaining a lean athletic look as a lifestyle? We haven't talked about this on the podcast yet.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on like the other things that we... Okay, so I'll start it. For the listeners, this is something that we recently have all been noticing that, and it's easy for me to see because I was an athlete first. Like the 4 guys started 3D Muscle Journey, and like I was telling Alberto, I remember 2012-ish, I was watching their videos, and I was like, oh my God, they're so great. They'll never take me. They're so good. They work with Matt Ogus, and he's like, they're all pros, and Matt looks like an action figure, and I know that they get full sometimes on their roster, and if I'm putting this application, and I pray to God that they'll take me, and it's scary. And we found that still happens now. So we've tried to make more of an effort, like on our Instagram stories and stuff, to tell you all that's not true. And a lot of people responded with like, "Oh my God, really?" Like they didn't know, like because this question actually is from a few weeks ago. I got it in my email a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so we have an entire program that can be used, and we do use it for off-season coaching for bodybuilders, but we also use it for people who are just lift and believe in the 3Ds. So they work hard, are dedicated, and are disciplined, and they may or may not want to compete. So long as they're drug-free and about the journey rather than the destination, we're on board. Happy to help.
Yeah.
Honestly, the people we turn down most of the time, or they come to us and they say, "Hey, do you work with anyone who's enhanced?" And we go, "No, thanks, but we recommend these folks." Or they come to us and go, "Hey, I'm a boxer. Can you guys help me out?" And we go, "No, there's better people for that." So if you want to lift heavy or lighter, and you want to be bigger or stronger, we down.
Yeah.
To add to that, I think 2/3 of the people I work with don't compete.
Ever or not this year?
I'd say honestly, like ever. Like a lot of the people that I Skype with every once in a while, they don't compete, and they don't care to compete. Very few that are kind of like, we'll see how far we get with this, and I'm fine with that. They're just as fun, and I take their goals just as serious. And some of my hardest workers are not competitors. They just like absolutely love doing their thing. So
yeah, like you don't have to have a set date or competition. I think a lot of people that like lift, they're like, "Oh, I want to work with you, but I don't know if I want to compete this year." And it's like, it's even better that you're talking to me now, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the only time we need dates. Well, actually, that's not even true. Like for weekly contest prep coaching, obviously that is preparing for a contest.
Yeah.
But you can even do that open-ended. You can be like, look, I want to compete in one of these shows in my local area sometime between July and September. And we're like, all right, we'll get you in shape as quick as we can while doing it as healthy as possible. And then strike when the iron's hot.
Yeah. So I have here the thing that's like the 4 reasons we don't work with you. Because usually it's like I said, pretty much, yeah. But we won't if you're not natural, like you said. If all of our coaches are full.
So if you're bigger than us, that's how we do it. If you're bigger than
we have a 100%. We have a test that we use And 40% of the time, it works 100% of the time. We just look at you. And if we get insecure,
intimidated, yeah.
you're probably on gear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If I haven't achieved what you've done, you're cheating.
Yep.
Okay.
I've actually thought we should replace the urine and polygraph stuff with shows with just the YouTube comments. Like we could just get all the competitors on stage and then just have them do quarter turns, and then we could just see all the guys who know, like, okay, I'm 17 years old, I've definitely been lifting for 6 months, and I know for sure that if you have quote unquote 3D delts, that you're on gear. Or hey, that guy, he has a receding hairline, and we know that baldness did not exist until anabolic steroids, so he's on gear.
Because there's really no other way to tell. That's
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. I had guys tell me I was on gear because I had moles on my back. So apparently moles.
Yeah.
Steroids.
It's the fair way to do it.
Sun exposure. Same thing. Yeah.
It's the only fair way.
Yeah.
Okay. The other reasons are you're currently working with another coach. This actually happens a lot. They'll be like, oh my God, I can't stand my coach. Will take me. And it's like, well, you kind of need to stop with that person first. And come back.
Yeah, and also to be honest, I'll be honest, all the people who do that, that's kind of a red flag to us. Like, we want to work with people who, if there's an issue, you'll talk to us, not like Cliff Wilson or something like that,
It's like when mommy says no, you go ask daddy kind of thing.
Yeah. That's like, we get it. So there are some coaches out there who it's like you can try to talk to them and they will just shut you down or not even email you back, etc. And we get that. But if it's just like things aren't quite the right way, or they don't have enough followers, and or like we seem like a new shiny thing, but you're not willing to just talk to them and understand, like, it's really got to be a two-way street. So it's a little bit of a scary thing to us if we see someone who doesn't seem committed to communication.
Yeah.
Bert.
Well, that's three, right?
Yeah. No. Oh, the fourth one. I'm just saying, for all the viewers, you're just all up in this camera, and we like it a lot.
Am I? Holy crap!
You were just like, you're like this.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that. Pretty
oh my God, that's.
But it was real handsome, and we're happy about it. Okay. Fourth thing, you have a physical or psychological condition that deems you unfit for our services. We don't deem that usually. We don't usually deem. Is that even the right word? Deem you? Yeah, that is the right word. So if it's some things, Steve catches, right? Our RD who sees all of our stuffs beforehand. He sees all the applications and the medical history, and if there's something, if they have like special, like if you're diabetic and we know about it and he knows about it and we figured out a way, like it's cool. I'm trying to think of other things though that are
there's rare medical conditions where maybe you find out, like, oh wow, you shouldn't even be lifting without doctor's clearance. Like, we aren't doctors.
We had someone with like a spinal issue that was maybe like pretty close to just had surgery, and we were like, we're not comfortable with it.
Yeah. Or like, sometimes we'll just say, hey, if you can get a doctor's note, like if you can get medical clearance, then we'll do that. But sometimes we just feel like perhaps we're not the best person to serve you, or at least not by ourselves. So.
Yeah, because you've done stuff in conjunction with doctors, right? Before, Eric?
Yeah. I've worked with people who have a PT working with them at the same time, or who have a therapist working with them at the same time, for sure.
Yeah.
I think probably all of us have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hope that answers it. But it's just like, it's funny because this, like I said, I have an email bank of questions that come in from these, and that was like a couple months ago, and this recently became a thing that we like had to address. That y'all are scary. That's it. Y'all are scary.
If you've won a world title, then we'll work with you. So we got about 4 clients at any given time.
And 3 of them are the coaches, so we coach each other. Yeah. All right. Lisa asks. Okay, my question's about sites like EXRX, which I've never heard of. She's like, I'm not familiar with them. And other ways. Yes, and other ways to classify someone as a beginner, novice, etc., depending on their 1RM for some lifts. How did those sites make those standards? And are those weights for every culture the same? What do we think
They
about
are
those
arbitrary.
sites? Yeah, I say that's. Go ahead. How would you classify beginner versus intermediate versus novice? It's the same as beginner.
I think the best way to classify it is the rate of progress you're making, because Andy Bolton, who you probably don't know who that is, but maybe you might if you follow powerlifting, the first time he ever deadlifted, he pulled 600 pounds. And he would go on to deadlift over 1,000 pounds and be the world record holder for a long time. But, we're talking some dude comes in the gym and pulls more. Or, Berta, how long did it take you to pull 600?
Look, I don't want to talk about that, man.
It took me a week.
It was more than a decade of training, though, right?
It was like 14 years, I think, of training.
Yeah.
2012 is when I did it, yeah.
Granted, Andy Bolton's birth weight was the same as your stage weight, so yeah. I don't know if that's a great comparison. But
his poor mom. Okay.
But I'm sure Miss Bolton is a very robust woman as well and could handle that. I'm sure it's very strong stock. That's strong stock where he comes from.
Oh God, all the moms are gonna be so upset with this.
I'm gonna get beat up at a powerlifting meet now by Andy Bolton this much.
No, it's gonna be his mom.
I know. I thought you were gonna say that by Andy's mom.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah. So the point being is that a beginner may be able to deadlift 600 pounds if they have the right genetic makeup, which is intimidating for some people, but they are eventually going to top out. So really, whether you are advanced as far as what you should consider in terms of your programming, rate of weight gain, and what you do with your nutrition and training, really should be more related to how close are you to your genetic ceiling versus an arbitrary standard. So I would say, if you can make reliable, even incremental small amounts of progress in your loads or reps on a workout to workout basis, you're still a beginner. If you can make progress incrementally week to week, you're kind of an early stage novice. If you can do that like mesocycle to mesocycle, you're more of a late stage. Did I say intermediate or novice in the last one?
This one, you probably meant early intermediate on this one.
I did early intermediate. And if it takes you like a mesocycle to see progress, like if you follow that kind of down step linear progression we've talked about on 3DMJ many times, like you go 876 deload and then you start back at 876 but slightly higher, and you can do that, and then you're kind of like a stock standard intermediate, I would say. And then once you're at the point where you need to run 8 to 12 week blocks with like accumulation, intensification, taper before you're seeing significant progress, that's when you're advanced for all intents and purposes. But yeah, like you can see like Shico standards, you can see USAPL standards, you can see just the strength standards that I've seen on like T Nation or what you're talking about. And those are like decent ways to look at how does your strength compare to the population at large. But again, that means Andy Bolton woke up one day and he was stronger than 99% of people. It doesn't necessarily mean he should follow advanced programming. Because think about it. If you can never deadlift 600 pounds, well, what will it take to deadlift 700 pounds? Like a single per week for 3 months? Just learning the movement pattern, boom, Mm-hmm. So I think that's a better way to look at it.
So, how about this for muscle building though? Like if let's just say you don't do any of those movements, and we're talking specifically about muscular development, just in case they asked this, or they didn't, but someone else might be thinking about that.
It's just another angle.
I would still, we're throwing all kinds of angles. People like block, tricep, I still think it's the same, to be honest, because that's assuming like a fixed number of movements. Like if you change it up and you haven't done a close grip bench press in a year, you'll probably make great gains for a couple of weeks, workout to workout. But yeah, like while strength and hypertrophy aren't the same, the more advanced you get, strength gains are going to be more related to hypertrophy, So they'll come quick because you're growing and getting neuromuscular experience early on, and then they'll slow down and be more just related to as you put on muscle mass. So I don't have the actual data on this yet, but James Krieger was talking about in a podcast recently that he's looking at analyzing some data, and he found that like the workload you can produce over multiple sets with an isolation movement actually correlates really well with hypertrophy, which when you think about it,
makes sense.
like a leg extension, like there's not a lot of neuromuscular coordination.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. And then it's not just about what's the amount of absolute load I can lift. It's about how much total work I can produce, because hypertrophy is both kind of a function of your fiber size and its ability to do work, because it's achieved through volume. You know, it's kind of like the combination of muscular endurance and strength together. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I would like to see more work done on that in the future, but it may be that you could look at like, hey, what's my PR for total number of reps done across my 3 sets with this isolation movement? That's probably a pretty good sign my triceps are growing if my rope pushed down. Or my machine, I love this little machine extension thing at the gym I do. Like, if I can get...
Oh, I do that one too, on the pad.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
I thought you had 2 shake weights for a sec, Bert. I got excited.
I do this one right here. It comes with a post-work machine.
All right. Well, when she asked, like, one of those questions was, how did those sites make their standards? Like you kind of said, it seems to be an average of... you say, like, of lifters, though, you know?
Yeah. At worst, they made some shit up. At best, they might have looked at databases of powerlifters or Olympic lifters over time.
Yeah.
If you want to look at some strength standards and assessing your own muscular or strength potential, I'd actually check out some of Greg Knuckles' articles on Stronger by Science. He does it in a much more objective way.
Groovy.
So,
we will link that. We can link it. Hey guys, real quick mid-show announcement. 3D Muscle Journey has recently released a video course on post-contest recovery at 3dmjvault.com. We know there's tons of information out there on how to get lean and stage ready, but the reality of what happens after the diet is often misinterpreted and underappreciated. To help our athletes and followers fill this gap between prep and off-season, we released a system called the Recovery Diet in 2015 to address the immediate 4 to 6 weeks after your last competition of the season. But oftentimes, the recovery diet in itself is not enough to feel normal again. Most people don't just snap back into their regular lives so quickly. Some experienced athletes can easily hang out too lean for too long, while less seasoned athletes can easily pass their intended body weight by extreme amounts because of abnormal behavior patterns or faulty hunger signals. This course just doesn't address the tactical calls to make in those situations, but also the psychological trauma of weight gain and the identity crises that can hit a lot of bodybuilders as they lose their shredded appearance over time. Whatever the case may be, this post-contest recovery seminar was created to help give a complete look at the wide array of situations that can arise in any athlete during their first year following their last stage appearance. If you'd like to get a behind-the-scenes look, read the full table of contents, and get 2 chapters of this course completely free, go to 3dmjvault.com, select the post-contest recovery seminar at the top of the page, and click on the free trial button. Thanks so much for listening, and let's get back into the show. Okay. New question from Dylan. How would you handle a new client that is coming to you in their off-season that's not at a healthy off-season weight, so too heavy for their sport, basically, and not within mini cutting range? Do you take them through a process similar to a prep and get them into an appropriate range, or do you mix in shorter gaining phases? And it's basically like mini cut, gain, mini cut, gain.
I just fat shame them primarily, nothing else.
Man, Eric's full of sarcasm in this one. Full of the sarcasm in this one.
I said I just fat shame them. That's the primary coaching tool I use.
If you make fun of them, they change.
Oh, they'll lose weight like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
For
Make them feel bad about themselves.
Yeah, and Eric's wife is beautifully 102 pounds, 5'8". He just shames her, and she just plays away.
Yeah, the reason why I have a beautiful wife is because I've shamed her since I met her.
Pretty much. Just kidding. She's great and healthy and beautiful. His cats are skinny though. Assume
again. I cat fat shame to get them to. Why are you still eating kibble, you little fat bastard?
Go barf.
Yeah. Well, they throw up a lot. I've basically induced bulimia in my cats. So
I'm going to keep reading this question if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'll let Berto handle this one.
Okay. Assuming non-disordered eating background and perhaps 2 different situations. So if they differ. He's saying, does this differ? How would you handle a powerlifter or bodybuilder who has bulked too far, or a bodybuilder who's post-contest and has overshot their weight? Would those be different? How are they different? How would you handle those? So I think if to paraphrase it, you have someone who's probably not in the best state to start like a prep diet or to start an aggressive dieting phase, and by not being in a good state, it'd be like timing-wise. And you don't want to put them through absurd strictness off-season, but they just got a little too much on them. What do you do?
So let's go with the prep one first.
So like they post-contest recovered too far? Went past it. Okay.
They're really recovered, right?
Well, but are they? How'd they get there?
See, that's yeah, exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
You know, I would say that for most people, that first gaining phase post-show, sometimes you feel that you have to get a little bit heavier than you would otherwise. So like this even happened to me, like with this last prep, even though like one of my main priorities was like, you know what, I'm going to recover. I'm going to do it in front of everyone. They're going to see me gain all this weight on purpose initially. But it hasn't been until I hit like 180, like maybe a month and a half ago, that I'm like, wow, like this is what it feels like to like just be beast mode in the gym all the time. And just like really, it's like, you know, like now I'm like, man, I got to eat. All I want to do is like lift weights, and I feel like I can lift weights forever, you know? But it's funny because I know later on, there will be some cycles where once I get below that, like I'll be roaming a few pounds below that and I feel just the same. So I think for most people, like it's almost like you have to, and again, this is just what I've seen. You have to get a little bit further away than you would like. It's almost like this is like base for your body. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to chill out. So that might be the situation. And they just might be a little uncomfortable with where they're at. They'll probably, I think, be a little bit more resistant to weight gain from this point onwards, so long as there's no like huge red flags, like when it comes to the mental side of things. And to be honest, what they probably need most after a contest prep is just more time away from a caloric deficit, because I've seen people try to go back and clean that up, and they're like, I'm just going to lose 10 pounds. And those 10 pounds are just 10 pounds that they keep trying to make happen over and over and over again, where maybe what they should have done is just like, you know, like allow themselves to float there a bit longer. And then, hey, 8 to 10 months later, it's like, all right, let's go for a little mini cut. But it's not something that I would try to address right away, especially if it's like 3-4 months post-show and they already feel like there's no room to grow. Like, honestly, it's just going to start the cycle that'll never end. And we're going to spend a lot of time like just not building up a lot of that. We're going to make them worse mentally. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're going to end up making them. And that's a big part of the mending process is just like, not only does your physiology have to kind of forget or be like, okay, we're cool. But like, it's like after a caloric deficit, it's going to be a while before you can actually, before you're actually ready for that. And I think for most people, 8 to 10 months is about right.
At least, yeah.
Assuming you didn't have a crazy long prep, yeah.
Go home.
Can I chime in a little bit? Yeah, I think it's also important to consider like a couple things on the front end. Like first, what are the expectations of the person of what is taking it quote unquote too far? And then also, when are they going to compete next? Because let's say you don't have plans to compete in the near future, and you wanted to be 10% over stage weight, but man, you blew up all the way up to 20% over stage weight. It's not like the end of the world, you know, if we're not looking at competing in the near future. Yeah, it's a little higher than we want to be, but I think you also have to consider, like, are you still gaining weight or not? So, you know, I think the person put the disclaimer, this is someone who doesn't have a disordered eating situation. Mm-hmm. So first, I would say if the person is in the midst of gaining weight and it still doesn't have much agency around that, you got to let them keep gaining weight, you know, because if they don't have an eating disorder, it will stop. It may be a little too high or not where they'd like it to be, but I'd say don't intervene until you're at a point where you have normal hunger levels that are appropriate for your activity and body fat levels, and that you have a kind of a back to normal relationship with food. And then, like Berto said, I would say just hang out for a while. Just train and eat. Don't really focus on gaining weight or losing weight. There may still be some recomping that's going to happen from lost muscle mass during the prep, and more importantly, kind of the loss of the psychological trauma from it and the renormalization of all the body systems. And then you can look at doing a mini cut, like he said, maybe 8-10 months down the line. You're going to be uncomfortable for a little while, but it's probably the best path, and unless you literally are going to compete next season, which probably shouldn't do, but it's not completely out of the question. Just don't expect a whole lot of changes in your physique next time you get on stage.
Yeah, and both of y'all mentioned a mini cut versus, he says, for example, 2-month diet at like a 1% loss per week, followed by 2 months. So the mini cut gain versus like maybe just over time tighten it up, I think would be the other versus the other end of the spectrum, like other way to handle it, I guess.
I think it'd be a little bit of both. So let's say you didn't have a plan on competing again, but you were that position where you're 20% over stage weight too early post-show, but now you're normal. I think you're going to find that as your eating behavior normalizes and as you get back in the gym and everything recovers and kind of catches up to the body fat, you're going to look better at the same body weight. You're going to recomp a little bit, not a lot. Don't expect crazy stuff, but it'll look better. And then once everything's working well, like Bert said, it's 8 months down the line, then you could run a 4-week relatively aggressive mini cut where you lose like 4% of your body weight in that month. And then after that, now you're kind of more at a reasonable position. Like maybe you're closer to 15% over stage weight. And then you can slowly get up to 17% over stage weight, then run another mini cut 6 months after that, get down to like 13% over stage weight, and then hover in that area. I think that's probably a best of both worlds kind of way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And you know what ends up happening is like the more of those cycles you go through, like those long gaining phases and then those fat loss phases to keep everything in check. Like this is the trend, is like the person's like top weight ends up getting closer and closer to stage weight. So if you are planning to spend some time away from the stage, you'll see that like by your third gaining cycle, you're like, oh wow, like I've shaved off, I don't know, like 9 pounds or something off like the first one that I felt like I blew. And a lot of that is just, giving yourself time to restore a lot of things mentally.
Mm-hmm. Well, develop new habits,
maybe
different
lifestyle
behaviors around eating.
Yeah, maybe
Absolutely.
lifestyle matters more too, because if you, say, okay, I finished prep and then I went away to college or I just started med school or something, and maybe a mini cut would be super intrusive to your lifestyle. There's a lot of people that just like start tracking and shit just tightens up. Or they, or they used to just completely eat when they wanted to, and now they're like, I'm going to have 4 meals instead, and then stuff just tightens up. So it's kind of, there's no right or wrong, and those are different ways to go about it. But like Eric said, like you put them in conjunction with each other, but you could just, there might be 1 or 2 habits that make it all easier. Like I said, tighten it up. I don't know if that's the way to say it, but things just aren't as...
Structure up.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's really long. I don't know if I'm going to paraphrase it right, but I'm going to try. I don't know if you read this yet, guys, but it's from Abram. Have y'all heard of a Bill Starr 5x5 template?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Bill Starr.
Okay. So it's basically increasing. Like it's a 5x5 with increasing weights on each set of 5 is how he puts it here. Anyways. But he's basically saying that he was doing it in this template where he's doing 5x5, 5x5s, and then he decided to do it where it's like 5 sets of 10 at a lower weight. He equated the volume mathematically, and it wasn't super different. But the 10s destroyed him for like the next week over like every time he would try to do it. What is this phenomenon? Is this normal? How could this have happened, and should I worry about it?
I think the big thing to consider is that you're adapted to 5x5.
Right.
You've been training with low metabolic cost per set.
Can you explain metabolic cost?
Nope, got to look that up. No, I was kidding. You've been training with with sets that don't last long enough to be really fatiguing, and now you're doubling the length of those sets. And you're probably using this on compound movements. Bill Starr 5x5 is a compound-based thing. So there's a couple things that can go wrong with doing, even though you're equating the volume, there's twice as many reps occurring, right? So that's potentially more wear and tear on big movements. So if you're, I don't know how this person is, because, you know, like, we're not great at articulating, I feel destroyed by something. They might be feeling just really fatigued afterwards. Like, they could be a little more glycogen depleted. They could just be sweating a lot and tired and a little pukey during the workout just because they're not adapted to that level of energy output in a short window. Or they could be like waking up the next day and like, oh my God, my hips feel on fire, or both. And I would say probably that's a consequence of just doing twice as many reps on compound movements and not being adapted to the fatiguing nature of doing high reps with full body movements. So volume is not just the only way to look at the way things affect you, for sure. Mm-hmm. Especially if the RPE is different.
Yeah.
Like, if those sets of 5, I don't know if they are, but 5 sets of 10 at a higher RPE is a lot. It's a lot different than 5 sets of 10 at a low RPE too.
Yeah, I think he's trying to make sense of, and again, it's really long, and I read it earlier, I swear, and now I'm just trying to like listen to you and go through it. But I think what the deal is, like, the 5s feel harder during it, and I'm fine. The 10s feel easier during it, and then I'm destroyed. And I think that's what's the weird disconnect. He's like, what is happening? You know. That was, I think,
there's more contractions, even if the volume load is the same. So I would say, I also wonder how long has he been doing 10s before he asked the question.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it might be week 2 following, and now he's cool.
Exactly. Yeah, by the time he hears this podcast, he's like, oh, yes, repeated bout effects started working, bro. I'm fine.
Yeah, but I like how you brought up different types of pain and what destroyed to someone could mean very differently than it means to another one. That wasn't a correct sentence, but you'll get what I was putting down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, pain is not good. We know that, but it can be subjectively very different. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I love the burn, and some people, like Eric, he told me he used to personal train, and they'd be like, I need to stop doing these leg extensions. It hurts, and you're like, it's fine. It's
supposed to
work.
You're okay. It's the middle of your quadricep. It's not your knee.
Like, it's gonna break off, and you're like, it's gonna be fine.
It won't explode. Trust me. Yeah. So, like, a good example would be before I got my surgery to correct my FAI, I could do 3 reps with 40% of my 1 rep max, and I would have hip pain the next day and SI joint pain. Because that's just like, I'm putting myself under some load in a position I can't be in without causing actual joint damage acutely. Yeah. So that's different than like, man, my quad's burning, bro, and I almost threw up in a bucket. Like, this workout destroyed me. Like, you know, one is just acute. You probably won't even, you maybe have some DOMs the next day, but that's about it.
Yeah. Anything to add, Bert? Oh, like, I asked you what to add, and then I was going to add something. My bad. Go ahead.
No. I think I'd rather use a 5x5 and then go do leg extensions, but that's just me.
There you go.
Well, you can't do it at the same time. What are you talking about?
That wasn't the question. That's not an option. You cannot do that.
Also, just be wary, though. If you change people, like, I'm sure Bill, when he put out this program, he was like, all right, this won't fuck up most people. This is safe to, like, kind of put out there. Mm-hmm. So when you change someone's shit, just know that there's some small print associated with that. So
yeah. Good. Okay, last question from Peter. I've noticed. Oh, is a weightlifter. Okay. Peter says, I've noticed, this was a comment on our podcast that was on maintenance calories. So it was on the website under that episode.
Cool.
Peter says, I've noticed that I have to eat significantly less food to maintain my weight and, oh my God, redo. Okay. I've noticed that I have to eat significantly less food to maintain my weight the higher my training volume gets. As soon as I lower my training volume, I'm able to eat much more food and feel much more satiated to maintain the same body weight. This seems counterintuitive and doesn't make any psychological sense. I was just wondering if any of you have had these same issues or know what's going on. P.S. I'm a weightlifter, not a bodybuilder, but I still go through phases of massing and cutting. So it's like the opposite.
It sounds like he's just doing enough volume to where the rest of the day he doesn't move.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's not uncommon. Like, you start to see like, I think we've talked about this before, and I might even talked about it in the podcast where you asked that question. You can see not much of a difference between hunter-gatherer societies and...
Oh, yeah. It was in that podcast. Yeah. You're right. Say it again, though.
There you go. Yeah, there were some crazy studies where they looked at hunter-gatherer societies, compared them to Western societies, and they have like 5 times the amount of activity we do, but not that different TDEEs, which is like, what? And it's because there's compensation for that. You know, you're a lot more active when you're doing things, but maybe other compartments go down, you know? So what I think is happening in this case is you're seeing your exercise activity thermogenesis go up, but your non-exercise activity thermogenesis is going down. You know, like if you look at some really high-level athletes in like when they're in a training camp, like they basically train hard all the time, and then they lounge around, watch movies, and sleep and eat the rest of the time, you know? And I think that's most likely what you're seeing.
And I don't know. I feel like it's not so cut and dry. At least recently, in the last few years, I've experienced this where it's not like if I went from like having the flu earlier this year, right? And I didn't do anything, and I barely ate anything, and I lost like 5 pounds, 6 pounds, something in like 2 weeks. And then I slowly worked up my training, and then once it was like enough training to where it was similar to what I was doing before, I'm eating everything like 1,000 calories more than usual per day. Body weight didn't do anything. And then after like 2 weeks, I eat like a normal human again, or a normal exercising human again. So it might just be that you're not adjusted yet in either direction, right? If you go through cycles. And
I think another thing to consider is there's a plus or minus range at any body weight that you as an individual can maintain that body weight at, whether you are down or upregulated in terms of energy expenditure.
Yeah.
Like if you were to predict your maintenance calories in the midst of prep, like 4 months in, when you were, 180 pounds trying to get down to 170, it would be lower than when you were at 180 pounds coming on the way up, trying to gain weight, and you'd find that, my maintenance is actually higher now, and I'm not doing as much cardio because you're in a surplus. Your body's trying to prevent weight gain versus weight loss, etc. So, and it's different for everybody. Sometimes it's not balanced on either side of the equation. So,
yeah. Other thing I think we talked about too, like the more intense my training would get, or if I have like a really intense day, I'm usually not hungry right after I'm done, but it doesn't kick in till later. Like maybe if you train at night, that's the type of response you have, and so your dinner gets smaller because whatever reason. Like basically there's a lot of reasons why that could be happening.
Yeah, actually that's another good point. If this is someone who's tracking macros and weighing everything and eating like a machine, meaning that regardless of hunger levels, you eat the amount that you've prescribed yourself, then go with my explanation. However, if you're just kind of basing this on the perception of how much you think you're eating, it may be that you are getting a suppression of hunger at certain levels of training volume, and then you're maintaining a body weight on less calories because you're a little bit suppressed in terms of energy expenditure or vice versa. So
yeah. So it's not weird. It's not as normal as the other way, but it's not unheard of or bad. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything to add, Bert?
No, and I think if you know this, you can just kind of adjust for that,
Yeah, like it's not a problem.
No, it's not a problem.
It's just a tool in your tool, something that you've noticed, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We did our questions. We are done with this podcast. What would you like to tell the people?
Thank you for your questions.
I'd have never thought you'd say that.
I don't think that's true.
All right, Bert. What about you?
I almost missed this podcast. Yeah.
Why are you going to tell him that? Shh. Don't tell him.
Yeah.
You're selling yourself out.
Yeah.
He went to the grocery store.
I apologize to you guys, like right here in front of everyone. So I'm sorry, guys.
Only we know you're irresponsible. Don't tell the world.
Now the world knows. All right. We'll see you later, guys.
Hey, everybody. It's Eric Helms. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. As you know, at 3DMJ, we promote evidence-based approaches to the lifting community. If that's something you want to dive deeper into, I'd encourage you to check out my research review, Monthly Applications in Strength Sport, or for short, MASS. This is a review that myself, Dr. Mike Zerdos, and Greg Knuckles put out every month. We cover the latest research publications that are applicable to strength and physique athletes, or anyone who's looking to get stronger or improve their body comp. Our content is in both written and video format. For more information on how to subscribe, check out 3dmusclejourney.com/mass. That's 3dmusclejourney.com/MASS for further details. Thanks for tuning in.